Hey guys, Ash here. It's been a while, but today I'm here to talk about the Sony Xperia Z3 Plus. Now, Sony seem to play a different game to the rest, and this occasion is no different. This is essentially the Z4 but branded as the Z3 Plus here in the EU. So if you were to look at the device, you wouldn't say much has changed from the previous Z3. Now this isn't a bad thing, as Sony have some of the best designs despite the way it tends to feel in the hand. The phone's exterior houses all the normal things you'd expect to find. All the buttons feel great, producing a nice solid click. Apart from the standby button, it has a sense of looseness to it. What is to note is the button that's dedicated to the camera shutter. This is fantastic and we don't see enough of this. Simply, it changes the way I use the phone to take pictures, and what's best is that I can half press to focus. Awesome. One of the things that makes this a Sony phone is the way that it looks and handles. It's sharp, angular, and like something straight out of 2001. These are things that people will both love and hate about this phone, but it is absolutely distinct and feels unlike much else. The body contains a metal trim, but the inclusion of a glass back is a questionable one. As nice as it is, there's a higher risk of damaging the device. Not only that, it's extremely slippery. You have to be careful, as it nearly slipped out of my hand quite a few times, and also on various surfaces that I had it on. The phone is smaller than most flagships these days, and as nice as the design is, it doesn't feel all that great in the hand. I prefer the roundness of other phones such as the OnePlus One. The other slight oddity is the SIM card tray. Getting it out involves yanking it out with your fingernail, and if you're like me and you keep it trim, it's going to be a pain. Otherwise you'll have to get something else like a pin. Finally, it's a small addition but one I like, and that is the lanyard loop. Not enough phones have this. So the most important technical stuff that you need to know for everyday use is that the screen is a 5.2 inch 1080p IPS panel, which Sony claim to have 130% sRGB coverage, which is through their triluminous technology. It also contains the X Reality engine, which analyzes the image and adds contrast, saturation, sharpness, and more. I don't use this as it's a bit heavy-handed. Other specs worth noting are the Snapdragon 810 processor, 3GB of RAM, expandable storage up to 128GB, and the 2930 mAh battery. There's a 5 megapixel front facing camera, and on the rear there's a 20.7 megapixel camera which contains an external RS sensor, which is capable of shooting 4K. This is all wrapped up in the IP rating of 65 and 68, making it dust and waterproof, but remember, it's fresh water only. So, a pretty good spec list you might be thinking, and it is. Especially when you consider the phone only weighs 144 grams and comes in at 6.9mm thick. Using this phone is pretty much the same as any other decent spec'd phone. So like any other flagship, it ticks the boxes and contains the latest and greatest SoC. The CPU is split with 4 cores running at 2 GHz and the other 4 at 1.5. It has adequate RAM to deal with a number of simultaneous tasks, windows, and pretty much anything you decide to throw at it. In my usage, the phone never skipped a beat, although there has been one standout issue that I've experienced time and time again, and that is the heat. My lord, does this phone get hot. Just browsing the net made the phone hot, but do anything strenuous, like using the camera, and you're looking at really high temperatures. In no time at all, I was experiencing temps of up to 70 degrees Celsius, easy. Overall, it's been a pleasure using it, but compared to most flagships and even some mid-range phones, the difference isn't as great as it once was. Sony are trying to do a commendable job here, and what makes their phone special is the software. The best things about using phones from Sony is the integration with all of its services. Besides the design and quality, this is the next best thing, especially since the PlayStation integration. You have all of the custom apps such as music, video, social life, etc., which ties into one of their services, so there's definitely something to find. An app that I'm quite fond of is LifeLog. Introduced a while back, this essentially catalogs and quantifies your life. If you let it, it will give you data ranging from your calories and steps to how much time you spend socializing, watching videos, playing games, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, in typical Sony fashion, it's not as deep as it could be, and there's little help about how it all works. If you have a PS4, you'll definitely love the inclusion of remote play. You can use your phone to stream your games, and it works pretty well with a decent Wi-Fi connection, although I wouldn't play any FPSs or anything. To make it better though, you can pair your DualShock 4 to your phone as a controller. Overall, it's a great inclusion which I guess no other phone can really match. All of this is wrapped up in Sony's UI, which over time I have grown to find acceptable. There are some logical inclusions such as the smart call, which allows you to answer the phone by bringing it up to your ear, rejecting it by turning it over. But there's also the ability to theme, there's a customizable app drawer and lots of other stuff, so it's not all bad. Nowadays, almost all of us end up using our phones as our primary imaging devices. The Z3 Plus includes a 20.7 megapixel shooter with an external RS sensor. Technical details aside, taking photos with this phone physically is a dream. I love the dedicated camera shutter button with a half press to focus. Looking at the images though, it's nothing too special. Photos look good in adequate light but fall apart completely in low light or when you zoom in. However, the colors are accurate and there doesn't seem to be too much post-processing going on. The camera software is one of the better implementations I've used, and comparing to stock Android, it's light years ahead. There's a manual mode for both imaging and video, which offers you some but not many controls for adjustment. There's a bunch of novel modes such as AR, sound photo, time shift video, and all that stuff. It's easy and it's fun should you need it. The Z3 Plus records 4K video. Now let's take a minute. The whole notion is pretty incredible and completely mind-boggling. That is when it works. Recording in 4K lasted the best of 20 seconds before it had to stop to cool down. Well, anyways, however, in good light, the picture is fantastic. Detail is there and the phone doesn't continuously hunt for focus. And to aid the shooting, you've got software-based IS called Steady Shot, which like previous phones works great. Mind you, this is at the cost of a cropped image though. Some of you may know that I mainly use my phone to listen to music. I personally like how Sony seems to be one of the very few manufacturers to pay attention to audio. The Z3 Plus continues this with the support for high-res audio. Basically, this allows native support of high-resolution audio formats that are encoded and sampled at a higher rate. Sony include various audio enhancers such as Clear Audio Plus, surround effects, and a plugin to help compress audio match the quality of high-res. However, I'd stay away from these as they tend to change the soundstage a bit too much. It's also worth noting that besides the HTC One, the Z3 Plus is one of the best phones I've used for audio. All of this is nothing without the battery life to support it, and this will obviously differ depending on your usage. With heavy use, the phone struggles to last a full day, giving me roughly 3 hours of screen on time. With lighter use, I could get much further, and so could you. Sony include a number of battery saving options in addition to Android's own, but I personally refuse to use any of these unless I have to because I really don't want to sacrifice my experience. So here we are. At the end of the day, I'm not really sure what to say about this phone. It takes a lot these days to really push a high-end smartphone without doing something completely different. Unfortunately, I don't think Sony will ever do as well as some of the other companies, and that's a shame because the products that they put out find fans, really big fans, and that is for good reason. Their products are fantastic. It just doesn't tend to be for the mass market, and if Sony are okay with that, then they could capitalize on the niche, highlighting things such as the high-res audio and the IP certification. There are some issues with this device, but they're all ones that could be fixed via software updates. So if you're invested in the Sony ecosystem, then this phone could be great for you. If you're not, it still is a great smartphone overall. It's just that there might be more competitive options out there for the same feature set. Anyways, thanks for listening guys. Let us know what you think down below, and if you have any questions, let me know on Twitter @TremblingWater or even on Google+. Take it easy and I'll see you soon.